Hello, everybody. It's us again, the Horror Guys, with episode 61.
61.
I'm Kevin.
I'm Brian.
And we're here to talk about some horror movies that we saw.
We got some good horror movies and probably some bad horror movies.
I think this was your week of not enjoying the movies as much.
Last week we did those Conjuring films and the Frankenstein, and I
didn't
liked
have a
them
good
all,
time.
and you didn't like the Conjuring things.
Mm-hmm.
And this week I think we may have flipped a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so.
Well, this week we have It, Chapter 2 from 2019, and also Ready or Not from the same year. Hammer's 1964 Nightmare, and Universal's strange 1944 film called Weird Woman.
Weird Woman.
Yeah. Aren't they all, though?
WW.
Okay.
Not Wonder Woman, but Weird Woman.
Weird Woman, yeah. Should have the same initials, like a little logo, like Wonder Woman, only Weird Woman.
Wearing satin tights.
Yeah. With a little 2 on the side. Weirder Woman. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Let's get to it. Here we go.
So first up, Weird Woman, from 1944.
Yes. Did you like it?
Yeah, it was okay. Yeah.
Yeah. About as neutral as you can get on a movie.
It was a dark and windy night. It starts out that way.
Of course, these old black and white films, they're always dark nights.
And of
windy
course,
is just not so hard.
And of course, gowns by Vera West, as they all were of that era.
She did the costuming way back in Dracula and Frankenstein in 1931, and she's still doing it here in 1944.
Decades, yeah.
That's having a thing sewed up.
Yeah.
Good contract with the studio system.
Yeah, she was the go-to. Yeah.
Okay, so Weird Woman, 1944, directed by Reginald LeBorg. Written by Fritz Lieber Jr., wrote the original story, and the screenplay is by Scott Darling. Stars, shockingly enough, Lon Chaney Jr., Anne Gwynn, and Evelyn Ankers. 1 hour, 3 minutes.
It's another one of those inner sanctum mysteries.
It certainly is.
So it starts out with the talking head in a crystal ball in a library.
I have deleted my review.
And what's all those chairs? There's a lot of chairs in the library. And there's a curtained window, and it makes you wonder, what's outside that window? Could be anything out there.
Okay.
Talking head just sitting on the table, talking away, yakking away. But it's kind of an interchangeable introduction.
It doesn't say anything
relevant
relevant
to the plot. It
to
doesn't
the
say
plot.
anything specific to the movie. Yeah, just kind of a generic, I control what you're about to see. It's a mystery.
The problem is not in your set.
Yeah, it is. It's very, very much like that. The Outer Limits intro.
Yeah. Okay, so.
And he has that whispered inner narration, like they all do.
Of course he does.
Yeah. You hear his voice without his lips moving. Maybe he's just a really good ventriloquist.
Yeah, that must be it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I got my review back. All right, well.
I'm done talking about it now. Okay.
It's another Inner Sanctum series film, so we get the creepy head and the crystal ball introduction again. It says something creepy about even you can unwillingly commit murder.
Unknowingly commit murder.
What'd I just say?
Unwillingly.
Yeah. Unknowingly, yes.
Yeah.
Credits roll. A woman comes home late at night. Norman Reed is sitting at his desk thinking to himself about fear and reason versus superstition.
Because he's a logical, scientific kind of guy.
Yeah, he just sits home at night thinking about superstitions. Why do men believe in strange supernatural gods? He gets a call claiming a woman saw his wife Paula out on the street earlier, hurrying home.
Well, that can't be right. My wife's upstairs asleep.
So he goes in and checks on her, and she lies, but he knows she's really been out.
Yeah, muddy shoes.
He wonders if it's some remnant of a ritual from the island where he first met her. See, now any reasonable guy would just assume she was sleeping around, but he's assuming she's doing some kind of ritual thing.
Yeah, doing witchy stuff.
You sleeping around on me? No, I'm out conjuring demons.
So
much more likely.
Okay, then. Yeah, that's all right.
We flash back to a 1940s version of a South Seas island with hula girls and bongo drums.
Yeah, it's kind of a vaguely... It's like they crossed a vaguely Polynesian island with a vaguely African tribe.
Yeah.
And kind of like vaguely the tropes of what people thought all these things were like in 1944.
This doesn't get into the racist stereotypes as much as
No,
many of the
not as
others,
much.
but it's still vaguely
A mishmash of
made
native-y stuff from what
Yeah.
they thought it was like in 1944.
Yeah, what would a South Sea island be like? Well, I know they'd have hula dancing and bongo drums.
Yeah, and huts and
Grass skirts and
dancing and chanting,
belly dancing.
Yeah, black magic, of course.
Of course,
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah.
Well, he sees Paula swaying mysteriously to the music. He then sees a falling star. This is the music of the Dance of Death, and where the star falls, someone will die. It is revealed that Paula's father was one of Norman's professors, so we can clearly understand that she's really a white girl, if that wasn't already obvious.
Yeah, she sticks out like a sore thumb.
Yeah.
Plus, she speaks perfect English, and
The girl he falls in love
do.
with is the only white girl on the island. Subtle 1940s racism.
Well, she's the only one that would talk to him because she's the only one that knows any English. So,
yeah, well, yeah,
but
you
right
know.
away it was clear, like, and you kind of go, "What's she doing here?" she's
Well, she's not dressed like the
a bit
others
out of
either.
place. Yeah, she's yeah.
Although clearly she's
anyway.
been there a very long time, probably raised there.
Yeah,
as we find
so
out later.
apparently her scientist father died, and she was just kind of left there and raised by the natives.
But instead of dressing like the natives, she dresses
No,
like she came from
yeah.
New York City out on this island.
And where did she get all those clothes? Vera West gave them to her.
They washed up on the beach like with Mrs. Howell.
Yeah.
Norman literally crosses a line in the sand, and the natives attack him.
Mm-hmm.
They draw a line in the sand and say, "Don't cross this or we'll kill you."
And he does.
Yeah. Paula and the old witch woman intervene to save his life.
The witch woman's kind of her adopted mother.
I thought it was the old woman from the werewolf movies, but it wasn't.
No.
Similar looking.
Mm-hmm.
Not
Yeah,
long.
they don't have a witch woman, a witch doctor. They have a witch woman.
Yeah, yeah.
Is the head of the magic. Yeah.
Not long after, Norman and Paula get married and go to a party, and his old girlfriend, Ilona, is jealous of Paula. Paula is very superstitious, and Ilona is, of course, modern and not superstitious.
She's a biatch too.
Well, we don't know that yet. But
Oh,
yeah.
it was pretty clear pretty quick. She's manipulative and greedy. Yeah, she's not a nice person.
Back in the present, Norman worries that he may not have done enough to acclimate Paula into the civilized world. Ilona comes to him the next day wanting to assist in Norman's research. He refuses, so Ilona sends her young assistant Margaret to work for him instead. She has a plan.
Mm-hmm.
Norman's book is a big hit, and Ilona credits his success to Paula's beauty. Because, if you're a professor and you write this academic textbook on South Seas Island, you're going to give all the credit to his beautiful wife, because that's all it takes to write a hit book. Ilona thinks Paula is a witch. Margaret and her boyfriend fight because he's jealous of her attraction to Norman. Ilona sets up the department chair for blackmail and gets him to take any way out. And he gets a gun.
Uh-oh.
Fade to black.
Uh-oh.
Recently, Paula has been sneaking out at night and going to the cemetery. She lights up a candle and says a chant over it. Norman interrupts her, stomps on the stuff, and takes her accessories home.
And she's very upset by this. Saying, no.
Yeah.
No, what have you done?
He's not happy that she's still so superstitious. You take the girl out of the jungle, but you can't take the jungle out of the girl.
The jungle out of the girl. Yeah.
Paula says this is for his protection from Ilona, but Norman isn't having any of that. She doesn't want to hurt anyone, just help Norman. He burns her charms and doodads. Suddenly, a shot rang out. The department chair has shot himself, and his wife screams, "Murder! Murder! Murder!" like 9 times.
After he shot himself.
Yeah.
Like, what?
Well, Ilona knows what really happened, and she's especially creepy at the funeral. Norman realizes that at the very moment the medallion shattered in the fire was when he heard the shots. Coincidence? He's not sure. Norman gets annoyed with Margaret, and her boyfriend takes offense. He fights with the boyfriend, and then Paula calls. Something bad has happened. Paula hears the death chant on the telephone. Norman starts to wonder if Paula is correct in her beliefs. He has doubts. The problems just keep piling on. Margaret's boyfriend comes after him again, this time with a gun, and Norman shoots him in self-defense. Ilona confronts Paula and tells her to go back to the jungle. Quote,
Yeah.
The department chair's wife confronts Norman, and he figures out that Ilona was behind it all.
Of course she was.
She explains that Ilona is playing the death chant from a recording, and they enlist the chairman's wife's help in a plan to ensnare Ilona. Okay. Well, maybe this all seemed nice and exotic in 1944.
Kind of a murder mystery kind of thing,
Yeah, with the island stuff thrown in there too. But the world has learned so much about faraway places that this all just seems really preposterous today. The islanders weren't especially racist stereotypes any more than others from this time period, but it was noteworthy that Norman married the only white girl in the village. I suspect in the 1940s, nothing else would have been allowed to hit the screen. Like the other films in the series, it feels a lot like a soap opera. It's very melodramatic and just a little over the top. There's not really a weird woman here anyway. It's just a convoluted plot of jealousy and murder. And Paula was kind of weird. She was kind of weird.
Paula was kind of the weird woman, I
not
think.
worse than marrying and bringing any other foreign person overseas. They don't quite fit in quite right in the beginning. It takes time to adjust. She wasn't really a witch.
No.
Although she was doing a spell in the cemetery.
Well, yeah, she had magic and stuff.
That probably kind of counts as a witch, though.
Yeah, kind of.
Okay.
Anyway, it was okay.
Yeah.
It was thoroughly adequate.
So we go from the weird woman to the nightmare from Hammer Films, 1964. They're still playing around with black and white. Many of the Hammer films had already been color at this point, but
well, they know how to do color. They just chose not to on this one.
Directed by Freddie Francis, written by Jimmy Sangster, stars David Knight, Myra Redmond, Jenny Linden. Hour and 23 minutes. Link in the show notes if you want to pick this one up.
All those names sound familiar to you? Nope, not me neither.
No.
This wasn't.
No big stars that I recognize.
Hammer Films, yeah.
No Christopher
none of the
Lee,
classic stars.
no Peter Cushing, none of the Scream Queens. This is it's a B-side movie.
Kinda, yeah.
Did you like it?
It was okay. It was no Hitchcock, but it tried to be, I think.
I think that's exactly what
it was like Hitchcock Light. And it wasn't really a horror movie anymore.
Dollar store Hitchcock.
Yeah, it wasn't it wasn't a horror movie any more than a Hitchcock is, really. It was like a very Hitchcockian thriller, I thought.
A lot of Hitchcock things kind of qualify as horror.
But it was decent and decently done, and very noir, black and white kind of thing. And,
I wasn't bored to death.
I wasn't bored to death. Yeah, I was entertained.
It's not on my let's watch it again list.
No, or ever again. But
or ever again, right?
Yeah.
Okay, well, Janet's having a nightmare as the credits pop up. She's walking down a dark hallway and approaching a locked door. She slides open the bolt and opens the door. Inside, she finds her mother, who laughs as the door traps her inside. "We're both mad!" screams the other woman. Janet wakes up screaming. Now, there's two people screaming. The mother and Janet are already screaming. Let's count these up. Janet,
a lot of screaming in this movie.
Yeah, there is. Yeah, there is. Janet lives in a boarding... It's not really good screaming either. It's like screaming by someone who's never trained to scream. Ew, ew. Ew, ew.
Wasn't that bad.
Janet lives in a boarding school, and she desperately wants her guardian, Mr. Baxter, a lawyer, to come and take her away. The school headmistress wants her to go home as well. The driver comes to pick her up, and she sees someplace she wants to visit on the road on the way home, but the driver refuses to stop for it. Mary, the headmistress, asks Mrs. Gibbs, the maid, about Janet's mother. She went insane many years ago, and she's in the asylum that they passed on the road. When Janet was little, she walked in and found her mother stabbing her father to death. Janet had a nervous breakdown and then went to live with Mr. Baxter. Janet constantly worries that she might be insane too.
Runs in the family. Or does it?
Janet dreams that there was a woman in her room that night. Mary, the headmistress, gives her some advice, but Mary has to go home in the morning. Not much help there. Mary leaves, and Janet is left alone with Mrs. Gibbs and Grace. I guess Grace was just this sort of friend person that they hired to be a friend.
Yeah, they hired to be a friend, and she was a nurse, too, to keep an eye on her.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was
Never had to pay a friend. That night, you're so ugly you had to have a pork chop around your neck. You're so ugly your mother had to pay for your
Had
friends.
to hire friends for you.
That night, a strange woman with a scar on her face wanders into Janet's room, and Janet follows her. She finds the woman stabbed on a bed with a birthday cake nearby. The doctor wants to put Janet in an asylum right then, but Mr. Baxter doesn't think it's that bad. Yet. Baxter assures Janet that she's not going to be locked up. That night, Janet locks her bedroom door, but when she hears a noise, she opens the door anyway.
Shouldn't have done that.
Yeah, she follows the shadow down the hall just like the previous night, and she finds that same woman dead again. She sees the woman again, and after a bunch more screaming, breaks a mirror and cuts her own wrists. She still wonders if she's crazy. Baxter still doesn't think she needs the asylum, but he throws her a birthday party and introduces his brand new wife, Helen. And Helen is the woman with a scarred face. Janet then stabs her repeatedly. Is she ready for the asylum yet?
Need the asylum yet?
The medics carry out Helen's dead body. Then they carry out Janet on her way to the asylum. We see the scarred woman in the window again, and this time she pulls her face off. It's Grace in a mask.
Tricked ya.
Grace and Baxter talk about their 3 months of planning for Janet to kill Baxter's wife, Helen. It worked beautifully. Soon, Grace starts finding discrepancies and lies in Baxter's behavior. Baxter wants to live in Janet's house, but Grace is dead set against it. She accuses him of having another woman, and they slap each other.
Yeah.
Slap fight.
Yeah.
That night, Grace sees the woman walking the halls. She screams that she's not gonna fall for that trick. She calls the sanitarium and learns that Janet escaped 3 days ago and is considered dangerous. Now, Grace is worried. An unseen woman leaves a huge knife in Grace's room that night. She starts following the woman regularly, but can never find her. She fights some more with Baxter, and she stabs him repeatedly. Grace goes to call the police, and she's stopped by Mary the teacher, who, along with Mr. Gibbs and John the chauffeur, are standing there waiting for her. Grace insists that Janet is the killer, but when they call the asylum, Janet's been there all along, and she's doing very well. The three of them decided to get revenge on Grace and Baxter for what they did to Janet. Finally, they call the police to come and arrest Grace.
For murder.
Ha ha ha. There's too much screaming in this film, and for a horror film, that's saying something. It got really annoying. It's not that there was so much screaming or that it was so loud. It was just poorly done screaming.
Yeah.
The music here is very bland and generic. The old house is very bland and generic. The actors are very bland and generic.
You see a trend here.
The cinematography is bland and boring.
No.
The plot
the
is,
cinematography was kind of good. I saw some noteworthy, interesting things there.
Okay.
The cinematography was not bland and boring. No.
And the plot is, well, you see where I'm going with this.
Bland and boring?
Yeah, a little bit. It seems like half the horror films of the 60s and 70s are about trying to get some nervous person locked up for going insane. Let's scare Jessica to death.
I was just going to suggest that one as a
Let's
comparison.
scare Janet to death.
Yeah,
Psychiatry in the popular mindset was a fairly recent thing. You know, you had Dr. Spock and all those other psychiatrists in the 60s bringing that stuff up. And I suppose a lot of people actually were afraid of psychiatry.
Yeah.
And we're not even talking Scientology here.
Psychiatry. Yeah.
We can't talk about that, can we? But anyway, yeah. Psychiatrists, bad. Mental illness, bad.
Scary.
Almost supernaturally scary. Speaking of supernaturally scary, we saw a short film this week.
Yeah, Night Drive.
Called Night Drive from 2020.
Brand new.
Directed by Jeff Overn and Timmy Lodi. Story by Brian Henderson and Josh Staples. Stars Jake Martin, Jesse Schaefer, Taylor Diffenderfer, and Tim Drinkwater. Well, I wish my name was Diffenderfer.
Diffenderfer?
Doofenshmirtzer, yes.
Tim Drinkwater. That's a pretty neat name. Drinkwater.
Runtime 8 minutes and 47 seconds, sorta.
Yeah.
YouTube link in the show notes.
I bet you're going to mention that.
Yeah,
actually.
I am.
Yeah.
Did you like it?
Yes, I did very much.
Yeah.
I thought it was excellent.
Looked really good.
Yes, looked good. Was all around tasty good. Yeah.
Yum.
Yeah.
Two guys and a girl are driving down the road at night, and they're having a good time singing and joking about country music.
The girl was a surprise.
I didn't know she was back there.
Oh,
Yeah.
Well, she was asleep.
Starts out with two guys in the front seat.
They're chatting, and then she pops up after a bit.
And then there was a face in the back seat. And I'm like, who's
What?
that?
Yeah.
No, she was there
it's
all
okay.
along.
She's with them. Yeah, okay.
So they're joking about country music. They pass a guy wandering alone on the road, and one guy comments that he looks like an escaped mental patient.
And he does.
Yeah, he does. Well, they play a different song, and then they pass the same weird guy again.
Huh.
One guy
Is that the same
states
guy?
that, if we pass this guy a third time, we should hit him.
Hit him. Yeah.
That escalated quickly.
Which freaks them out. What?
And then they do come upon him again, and this time they stop.
And then what happens? Well,
Bad
you're going to have
things
to
happen.
watch that for yourself to find out. Yeah.
Well, this is clearly a really low-budget short film with no sets other than the car and a dirt road.
Big old van.
Considering that it's well-lit, sharp, the sound and lighting are good, and all the other things that indie shorts often get wrong are really good here.
All right. They do
This
it right.
is really well made. The story is a little sparse, and there's no explanation of anything.
Can only do so much in 5 minutes.
Yeah, but it's creepy and effective nevertheless.
Yeah.
The only gripe...
Well, and that's why I say it's only so much you can do in 5 minutes. Yet the runtime was 8 minutes.
The only gripe I would
awfully long
have
credits.
is that the short is 8 minutes and 47 in length, but the story is only 5 minutes and 44 seconds long.
A few minutes of credits.
The other 2+ minutes are credits that would put a Peter Jackson film to shame. There's no after-credit scene or anything that you need to wait for, so you can stop at the 5.5 minute point if you want.
Keep watching or read all the names. Yeah.
Somebody went to a lot of trouble with those credits.
Yeah, they did. Yeah. But it was good one. You should check it out.
Yeah, it's definitely worth
5
5 minutes of your time.
Yeah.
Speaking of worth the time,
Oh, this wasn't worth the time.
our big movie this week was It Chapter 2 from 2019.
With a runtime of 2 hours 49 minutes.
Seemed like a week. Seriously. Directed by Andy Muschietti, written by Stephen King and Gary Doberman, stars Jessica Chastain, James McAvoy, and Bill Hader. 2 hours and 49 minutes. Did you like it?
I give a qualified yes.
I will give a qualified yes.
I would have liked it a lot better.
It'd have been a great 2-hour movie.
An
wouldn't
hour
it?
shorter. Yeah. Yeah.
Either make it an hour shorter and make it a 2-hour movie, or split it in two and have it be 2 more 2-hour movies.
There were many good things to like about it, but boy, it was long, and it seemed long at times.
It felt long. Well, we start in 1989 after the events of the first film, and the girl character, Beverly, explains that she has seen the future. And then we jump 27 years later. A gay couple are having fun at the carnival, and some local jerks start harassing them, which goes badly for the couple. They're badly beaten, and then they throw one of them off a bridge. The guy who is in better condition runs downriver after him and sees Pennywise the clown eat the guy's heart out.
And that was a cool effect and suddenly the river's full of balloons everywhere, and there's Pennywise across the...
Of course, this guy has no idea who Pennywise is, but the story gets out. Mike Hanlon from the first film hears the police call on the radio, and he immediately suspects Pennywise was involved.
All grown up now. They're all grown up now.
Bill Denbrough is a writer on a major film, but everyone complains that he can't write good endings.
That's kind of a running joke.
Stephen King can't write good endings. Mike calls him and says he needs to come home to Derry. Eddie gets a similar call, as do Rich, Ben, Stanley, and Beverly. They're all shaken up by his call, even before he explains why he's calling. Rather than deal with it, Stanley kills himself, right then and there. Beverly is in an abusive relationship, so she's actually probably better off fighting real demons anyway.
She married her father, basically.
Henry the bully has been institutionalized, and he freaks out one day when he sees just a single red balloon float by. Meanwhile, in Derry, members of the Losers Club start arriving back in town 28 minutes into the film. I might have to point out, maybe the longest review I have ever written.
Mm-hmm.
Oh boy. It turns out if you leave town, the memories of what happened start to fade, so only Mike, who never left town, actually knows what happens.
Yeah, the others
which doesn't
just
explain
kinda
why
forgot.
the others were so upset and the one guy even killed himself if they didn't remember what happened.
Well, it started coming back to him.
I don't think it
The
did.
fear.
At this
The
point, they
fear
still
did.
didn't know.
The fear did.
All right.
Just the emotion of fear, yes. And a lot of things follow the book, and that's one of the things that was in the book. That
Okay.
yeah.
Weird stuff happens with fortune cookies. Probably the best scene of the movie.
Understatement, yeah.
Meanwhile, Pennywise eats a little girl, and Henry escapes from the institution. Mike explains how the Native Americans explained that the demon came from outer space or something 200 years ago. Which made no sense to me, but all right. Beverly has been getting visions of death because she was the only one to see the deadlights all those years ago. It takes 55 minutes by the time we get to the point where all 6 characters decide they really do need to do something. But first...
About that 200 years ago thing, though, that's when they were around.
Well, yeah, okay.
The thing came a million years ago.
From outer space.
From outer space. But that story had been passed on.
So it's not really a demon, it's an alien.
It's an alien. It was in the book, too. It was from outer space. Sorta. It was a meteor.
All right.
That did it.
All 6 characters...
It arrived on a meteor.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Of course it did. Because aliens.
Mm-hmm.
All 6 characters decide they finally need to do something. But first, they find out that they need to remember what happened to them, and this involves finding some kind of artifact or relic from the past. One for each of them.
So they each go on a quest.
Splitting up time.
Mm-hmm.
About this time, I started browsing Reddit on my phone.
5 times as long.
Yeah.
And once they're some of their encounters are truly terrifying and good, but did it need to take an hour to do it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
One relic for each of them.
Yeah.
About this time, I started browsing Reddit on my phone.
Yeah.
Something happens in Beverly's old home that involves some of the absolute worst CGI I have ever seen in a big-budget movie.
That was almost laughable.
Or even most low-budget films.
That creature that came charging out was... It made me want to snicker. More than... Up to that, though, I thought they did a really nice build of, creepiness.
And then you see this creature.
And then that thing busts out, and what the...
There's a scene with a sewer and a scene with a classroom. Somewhere around the 90-minute point, Kevin sighed and said, "My goodness, this is a long movie." I quote.
Yeah.
Then there's a scene in the basement of a pharmacy. Henry turns up in Eddie's bathroom. Bill goes to the carnival, and he experiences the not-so-fun house Hall of Mirrors trope. Henry then pops up in Mike's library. They have to do the ritual to kill Pennywise in the old house. Why they didn't do this an hour and a half ago, I don't know, but they still have yet another hour to go. Of course, they immediately get split up. There's a spider scene homage that The Thing did better 40 years ago, and this is so obvious they literally quote the film The Thing.
Mm-hmm.
This was not even subtle in the least.
When the guy's head becomes detached and it grows spider legs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that whole scene just... Was that in the It book? I read it many, 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 many years ago. I don't remember.
Well, the original It book isn't anything like the John Carpenter movie. Not much.
No, not The Thing, the It.
Oh, the It book.
Was the spider head in this book?
I don't believe so. I don't remember that.
Then why put this in at all?
Because they could.
Let's steal a scene from an actual scary movie.
Yeah, the ending doesn't really... I mean, there's a lot of things that are missing from the book, too. And stuff. The turtle isn't mentioned at all. The turtle...
What turtle?
The counterpoint to the counterpoint to It.
Oh.
Yeah,
okay.
there's another omnipotent being that gets involved. Well, I think that was more when they were kids, and then when he goes to try visit the turtle again, the turtle's dead. When they're adults, maybe.
Okay.
If I remember right.
I don't.
But
remember
anyway,
that
it was a
much.
thing that they don't mention at all. And
I think I read the book. I certainly saw the Tim Curry movie. It's been a long time. Well, finally they go down into the well or the sewer or whatever it is under the house. Creepy stuff happens again. They drop their artifacts into the fire. The fire goes out, and then the 3 lights come down from the sky. The light then goes out in the magic jar, but it doesn't stay there. turning into a giant balloon.
Because it can't be trapped that easily.
Yeah. It turns out the ritual was a scam that even Mike knew was never going to work. Lots of running and screaming happens, and among more bad CGI and transitions between all those characters who are now all split up again. Finally, they figure out a way to bring Pennywise down to size. And then there's like 3 or 4 wrap-ups and endings, any one of which could have been the end of the film.
Nope.
It's like the Lord of the Rings movies, where they had ending after ending after ending.
Mm-hmm.
The acting here is really good.
Yeah.
And the adult versions of the characters are really well-cast actors that look a lot like the younger generation.
Yes, they do.
On the other hand, I generally don't notice this thing very much, but the CGI is really atrocious.
The CGI is noticeably CGI.
Many, many better video games.
Most of the time, it's,
bad. From the creatures to the de-aged versions of the young losers, this was done in a real rush. See, some of the kids from the first movie had gotten older by the time they made this, and they had to de-age the children to make them look like 12-year-olds. And every time they talked, their mouths got blurry, like Henry Cavill's mustache. You could see it. Yeah, it was.
Sometimes you could, yeah.
Why they didn't just film them both at the same time, like so many other 2-part movies? This was obviously going to be a 2-part movie.
They knew it was going to be.
Why didn't they just
do
it all
the
at
kids
once?
Stuff all at once?
Yeah. Oh, and did anybody ever do anything about the gay bashing incident in the first scene?
Well, I don't think that was. I mean, there was a lot of crimes
But it was brutal looking, and the perpetrators all looked like real characters. You had the little guy who was like instigating everything.
Yeah, they were all.
It looked like they were going to be a real gang that was going to be a problem throughout the movie, and we never saw any of them again.
No, they weren't. Yeah.
The victims were no big deal, but the gang looked like they were going to be something.
No, they weren't.
Almost as if the scene was shot for a different film and thrown in here. This film is a mess. A really, 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 really long mess. If you got a week to spend on this movie, there are really good
Almost
parts
3
here.
hours. There were.
There are really good parts, but it is so damn long.
Maybe somebody could do a really good parts cut.
A 10-minute short film. It
would probably be a good hour. I could cut it down to an hour. The best parts.
I don't remember the Tim Curry one being bad. The special effects are a little bit dated.
I remember thoroughly enjoying the Tim Curry one. Well, part of it was liking Tim Curry as Pennywise so much.
Well, he's never been bad in anything.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, Scars.
Oh, he was fine. He was barely in the second one either. It was all CGI.
There
was one scene of him without his makeup. He was a human, and then he was, one or two short clown scenes. The ending, that wasn't really him. That was all CGI.
Almost entirely, yeah. Yeah, I liked Tim Curry's Pennywise so much better.
Yeah. Okay, now to the only movie I actually liked this week.
I don't have any notes on this.
Ready or Not?
I just watched it.
Okay.
I just watched it.
Ready or Not was a 2019 film directed by Matt Bettolini-Olpin and Tyler Gillette, written by Guy Busick and R. Christopher Murphy, stars Samara Weaving, Adam Brody, Mark O'Brien, and takes an hour and 35 minutes. Yay, an hour and 35 minutes! You could watch this twice instead of it.
Did you know she's Australian?
I did not.
She so thoroughly hid that in this.
I recognize the name. She was in something else we've seen, but I couldn't tell you what right now. Did you like it?
I liked it a lot. Yeah.
One of those.
This one's a winner.
Sort of comedy horrors. Not a serious horror film.
Very light. There's a lot of gore and violence, but it's very lighthearted and a lot of funniness in it. Yeah.
As the credits roll, we open on shots of board games on display and 2 children running through the house. Someone gets shot with a crossbow and dragged away screaming after one of the boys shouts, "He's here!" 30 years later, Grace and Daniel are getting married.
Daniel was one of the boys in that flashback scene.
I think he's his brother. He's the one. No, it's his brother.
No, his brother. Yeah. No, he was the one hiding in the closet.
He was there.
His brother, he was there.
Well, his family is a bunch of weird snobs, and she's not an upper-class type.
And they are richer than Midas.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
A strange woman comes into the room through a secret door and states that you'd better hide better than that.
That's the aunt. She's a...
A hoot, yes. At midnight, Grace has to play a game. It's something that you have to do when you join the family, just one of those rituals. Daniel makes it sound like a fun formality, because usually it's Monopoly or something like that.
Usually it is
Usually.
fun. Usually. Yes.
At
But every 30 years or so, apparently.
It's more than that.
Yeah.
At midnight, they go into the game room, a room full of taxidermy and board games. He explains about old Mr. LaBelle and his mysterious box.
So the family made their money from games, board games,
games.
cards, and stuff like that. Yeah.
Including one like LaBelle's Gambit, and you see on the box it's got the devil's face on it.
Mm-hmm.
So, Mr. LaBelle and his mysterious box. They put in a blank card, and out comes the game that they have to play. It's some of LaBelle's magic.
Mm-hmm.
Grace's card
No,
comes out.
we never actually see LaBelle. There's a chair for him.
We see him
in the room.
blink in at the end.
Barely.
Grace's card turns out to be hide and seek. She's amused, but everyone else looks a little bit grim.
Mm-hmm.
The rules are simple. Grace hides somewhere in the house, and the rest of the family has to find her. Then they play the hide and seek song, which I thought was awesome.
Yeah,
I'd never heard
it
that
is.
before.
Yeah.
Is it a real song, do you know?
Oh, I don't know. I didn't look that up.
Probably
Yeah.
worth checking that out.
Yeah.
The hide and seek's on the record player. As Grace goes and finds a hiding place, the rest of the family pulls out shotguns and crossbows. This ain't the usual game of hide and seek.
And she doesn't know that at this point.
Nope, she's
No.
just hiding.
Yeah.
Probably expects to get tagged or something. Grace watches as someone shoots one of the servants, and while she listens to the family bicker about it, she figures out what's really happening. According to LaBelle's rules, they have to kill her before sunrise, or something bad will happen to the family. There's a lot of running around and accidents. Another of the servants buys it. Before long, Grace is armed as well, but that doesn't work out so well either. Soon they're all out of servants, and only the family is left. And even then, it's just one damn thing after another, as Grace has the worst wedding night since, well, maybe ever. It's got some funny parts to it, but it's also more than a little slow-paced at some points. The gore, especially at the end, is pretty good. And there's an especially cringy part with a nail that you can see coming a mile away, but it's still good.
Yeah, that was grimace-worthy.
Overall, it's more of a fun horror than anything particularly scary, creepy, or suspenseful. But remember that the next time you're job hunting, that being a maid or butler, it ain't worth it. Find anything about that song?
It was original for the movie.
It was, okay.
Yeah. The creepy old lady was the aunt. She was the wife of the guy getting shot at the beginning.
Yes.
Yeah. The new widow.
So she lost her husband in the same game 30 years ago.
Mm-hmm. But she fully embraces the family and embraces the game and
maybe a little crazy.
The idea
now.
of
Little crazy.
Yeah.
Lot crazy.
Yeah.
You can tell by the hair.
Yeah. But
Okay.
that was a winner. That was a good one.
So, Weird Woman.
No.
We're both mez.
Both men.
About 5 to 4, maybe.
4 to 5. Yeah.
Nightmare.
Slightly higher, but still kind of meh.
I'll stick with 4.
Mm-hmm.
Night Drive.
I'd say a 9.
7 or 8 at least.
I'd give it a 9.
Okay. It Chapter 2.
Overall, I'd say a 6.
4. I'm heavy on 4s today.
Okay.
And Ready or Not, I'm going to go with an 8.
I'm going to go in the 10. Yeah, it's a 10.
You know, the 10 means you got to want to see it like tomorrow again. Do you want to see it tomorrow again? We need to do an episode with rewatches sometime. Get like second opinions on some of the ones that we really slammed. You got to sit through the movies we hated a second time. April 1st is coming. Yeah.
Okay, we'll see.
Well, that's our show.
That's our show.
Thanks for joining us. Stop in during the week at horrorguys.com to read all these same reviews on the website. And of course, if you hurry, you can read next week's reviews.
Mm-hmm.
Next week, we're going to watch some other good stuff.
Yeah.
Some horror, some classic horror
classics
films.
of horror.
We're going to watch The Human Centipede.
The trilogy.
The first sequence from 2009, followed by The Human Centipede 2, this full sequence from 2011, and as well as, you guessed it,
The Human Centipede 3.
final sequence from 2015. And stuck at the end of that playlist will be another interesting sounding indie film called Play, Pause, Kill from this year. That sounds good too.
Yeah, it does.
You know, so I put that in there, stuck on the end of the human centipedes.
Yeah. I see what you did there.
Yeah, I have seen the third human centipede. I've saw a lot of the first one. I've seen none of the second one and not all of the first one.
Okay, I've seen them all.
You have seen them all?
I have seen them all. I am looking. Actually, I suggested this, and I'm looking forward to seeing all three again in order.
I remember 3 was kind of a really dumb comedy.
Mm-hmm.
You said the second one was really intense, and I know enough about the first one to know what I'm getting into there.
Mm-hmm. And what I love is the same guy plays the doctor in the first one who plays that lunatic
The
warden,
sheriff and
the warden in the third one. And he's nuts in the third one. I
Yeah,
mean,
he is.
His performance is just brilliant.
Wow.
Yeah, I love him in that movie.
Well, that's next week.
Yep, that's
3
next
human
week.
centipedes and a play pause kill.
Yeah.
I'm Brian,
I'm Kevin.
and we'll see you next week.
See ya.